Welcome to Inkpulp Audio. I am back with Becky Clunan and Michael Conrad. Say hi, Becky.
Hello.
Say hi, Michael.
Hello.
All right, I have to turn off my notifications. I realize I don't want to get texts. I want to
Mr. Popular over there. No one's texted me for this entire quarantine shutdown. I haven't heard from anyone. I hope everyone's okay. Because no one cares if I'm okay or not.
That's not true.
If you have my number, just reach out. Just ask me how I'm doing.
Everyone, let's text Michael. Come on, let's show some love.
Yeah. Give me a text, goddamn.
All right, so Michael, you're working on a mini comic, is that correct, or just a short story?
Yeah, it's a mini comic. I think it's probably going to be like 20 pages. I'm kind of making it up as I go. Actually, shoot, what con where are we at, dear?
Richmond Galaxy Con?
Galaxy Con. Seated at the table, just kind of like, you know how like I hate at cons, like when you go over to a table and somebody like starts hard selling you on something. So I like to have something to do rather than be like I want to be attentive and loving to people who come by to check out our stuff, but like I never want to be that guy who's like, yo, you should pick up this or get that.
You've totally done that before, though.
I have.
Not for your own work, for mine.
You're saying you don't want to be a barker, Michael?
I can bark. Baby, I can bark. But it's got to be like Becky's stuff I believe in so much. I'm just like, you're a goddamn fool if you aren't hip to Becky's stuff. With me, like, I think every creative person is like this. There's like a little bit of embarrassment where you're like, yeah, that's the thing I did. It's maybe not my best work, but blah, blah, blah. Even if you think it's the shit, you sound like a goof if you're like, oh, that's so good. Like, I made that, you know?
Right.
So I don't want to be that guy. So in effort
the trick is like to talk about your work with excitement without like, because if you downplay your own work, like how can you expect someone else to get excited about it? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
yeah,
I'd rather if someone come at me with like an excited, like, oh man, I've made this comic and blah blah blah. It's like,
I'll get lightweight apologetic about stuff. I'll be like, yeah, that's like, I gave it my best go, and
I gave it the old college try.
Yeah, that's not the way to be. So in effort to like be more casual with people, I've like at cons, I'll like find something else to be doing. That way, hopefully there's a level of distraction that I'm experiencing. So what I did was I had this idea kind of rolling around my head for years. And it's not the kind of idea that I would want like a proper artist to work on. It's like just a kooky ass idea that, you know, with the quarantine times, people say like, oh, now's the time to work on the weird thing that you're thinking about. And I did it, you know, I'm doing it. I'm drawing a comic. I'm not super comfortable drawing.
Right.
But like, this is a story that I wouldn't want to put on somebody else. And what's resulted in is like, I'll take pictures and send it to people that I've worked with on stuff just to kind of get their feedback. And they're like, dude, why didn't you give me that story? So,
right.
you can't win. But yeah, so I'm just doing this kooky little mini comic thing here. And I'll do it and I'll print it up and it'll be available on Becky and I have like a web store, Mystery School Comics group.
Yeah, you guys have awesome stuff on there.
Man, it's so incredibly hard to keep up with Becky. Like she'll spend the day like speed wise and also just in terms of like she's fast and she's good.
Yeah.
So it's like she'll make it look like
it's all trial and error.
whatever. See, you can't take a compliment. That's typical. She'll like make it look like she's playing Animal Crossing all day and then like turn out some stuff that like that's like going to win awards.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Or she'll make
or
a
I'll
pin.
just play Animal Crossing all day.
She'll make a pin on the fly and that pin will like speak to the masses.
That wolf pin I got is awesome.
Ooh,
oh,
that thing's it's fire.
Yeah.
And it didn't last, like I'll make a pin, it'll be chilling in the store for a minute.
So,
She makes
most of my pins like chill out for a good long time.
I like that you have such a humble view of yourself.
It's true.
Yeah, maybe.
Most of my pins last for a while. When something does sell out fast, it's like a surprise to me, It's a nice surprise, but it's
that's part of what's cool about you. I love humble. I love that. I love
it's just I'm not being humble, I'm just being honest.
you never want to drink your own Kool-Aid too much.
Yeah, that's for damn sure.
But Becky is a freak. So me being around her, it's like she'll make like with that wolf pin, she made it and the shit went. Like it spoke to people during this like hard time. People are like, I'm gonna drop, the $10 or whatever on this kind of frivolous thing because it brought them joy. It brought them like a moment of escape from this like this catastrophic situation that we're facing. So I'm like, I don't even want to draw a pin right now. I just want to like work on some dumb shit. But in the process of working on dumb shit and like chasing these like weird whimsies that I got, I feel like I've become like a much better cartoonist. And it definitely, like, make no mistake about it, it helps having like Becky around where I can like show her what I'm doing, and I can tell she'll always be like, yeah, that's a really great panel, or yeah, that's a really great panel, and just with a subtle inflection I can tell like, I gotta go back and work on this. I've got a panel early in this comic where there's a sink. Have you ever drawn a sink before, Sean?
I have. I remember a few times in Deadpool. There are always scenes in his bathroom. I did.
This comic, I went into it knowing like drawing hands is difficult for me. Here's a hand right here, and it looks kind of like a hand. But there's so
you're way too hard on yourself with your drawing. Like when I first saw you drawing, I remember you talking about your drawing. Say, like you were down talking your drawing, and then I saw your drawing. I was like, you can draw. I don't know what.
Listen, Sean, I'm not going to come around you and talk about knowing how to draw when I've seen your shit.
Well,
right?
My point is you're not like you have skills to draw, and we can talk on that level. You don't have to.
Bless you.
I'm just saying, when I saw your drawings, I was like, those are nice. I wish
Oh,
I knew
you.
how they were.
Oh, you know what I want to talk about is how I met Sean Crystal, and you might not even remember this, but
Okay, go
we
ahead.
were
Tell the story. I'm sure I do, but go ahead.
friends on Facebook because
Yes.
Becky and you are tight,
Is this the
and
Dr. Strange Commission?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
tell the story.
yeah. So Becky and I are, well, Becky is tight with you. Becky is my partner, and I don't like befriend people based on like, oh, she's tight with this dude, I gotta like friend him up and like keep an eye on his ass or anything like that. But she's like, the people that she's friends with are generally people who are creating things that I'm interested in.
Uh-huh.
So she's friends with you. You pop up on like, hey, here's people you might know. I see like, oh, Becky's friends with us. Oh my God, he works on like young animal books and this and that and the other. Friend you up, pick up some books, and I'm like, this dude's a fucking freak. And then lo and behold, one day I grab my phone and you've tagged me in a picture, and I'm like, yay! Like what? Like what is going on here? And it's a drawing of it's a drawing of Doctor Strange. And I think you meant to tag somebody else. But Facebook's weird. Like you start typing in one thing, it'll predict another thing,
Right.
and you'll just kind of go with it, be like, yeah, that's who I meant.
Uh-huh.
I see this thing where I'm tagged in it, and I could tell that this is not the situation. This isn't like my new friend on the internet. Sean is like plugging me in. It's you meant to tag somebody else named Michael. I popped up. You didn't notice. Boom. And as like fate would have it, it's Doctor Strange, and I got a beard. Hold on. Let me figure out how to switch this camera view. Boom. Look at that. I look like the spitting image of a Doctor Strange. I look just like Doctor Strange. Like it was meant to be. How do I switch this thing around? There we go. Oops. So I look at this picture of Doctor Strange, and I made the joke of saying like, "Oh, you base that shit on me." Like, good on you, knowing that it wasn't based on me in the slightest. I'm trying to get my camera angle right again. And then you came back and you're like, "Nah, that was an error." And you're like, "Look at this shit." And you posted a picture of yourself, and it was you as Doctor Strange. And I was like, this dude's fucking awesome. so that's kind of how it came to be. I was like, I'm friends with Doctor Strange on this shit. You're like maybe a more vibrant Doctor Strange, and I'm Doctor Strange from like an alternate timeline. Like, what if Doctor Strange discovered whiskey or something? But yeah, so that's kind of like how you like truly came on my radar. I remember even texting Becky that day and being like, "Yo, I think your boy like accidentally tagged me in this thing." She had a laugh looking at the picture and stuff.
But yeah, I remember Becky saying it was you, like it was a spitting image of you. I do remember that.
Yeah, but you came correct though, and you posted a picture of yourself, and it was like, oh yeah, that's Doctor Strange right there. I wonder who, like, that was a commission or something, wasn't it?
It was
Somebody else?
commissioned at New York Comic Con. I think maybe the last time I went. No, it must have been it might have been the last time I went. Yeah, yeah.
So somebody owns a drawing of me.
Yeah, and I can go back and look at that I'm pretty sure that was a commission for like a regular collector, so I know who it is. If I just saw,
That's cool.
I might know. But yeah,
It's a fucking badass drawing.
oh,
you know what I
the,
think?
the guy who got that actually just tagged me on Twitter. He hung it up, and it's like he has this amazing collection of original artwork, and it was cool that like just to see my art up amongst all that other stuff was really, really nice.
That's cool.
So I can find out very easily who it is.
He framed it up all nice and everything.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember who else was on the wall. I know there was like two Sean Murphys, my Doctor Strange, maybe a picture of mine as well. There's also
What was that noise? Was that
Is
the
the
cat
cat
sneezing?
Yeah, he just had a sneezing, but he's allergic to himself.
Wow. I
Yeah,
could
it's-
hear it. I knew it was in our house because I could hear it in the other room.
yeah, it sounded like
Wow.
tape being ripped off a roll. So,
So,
Becky, you're just working on a short story, right?
Yeah, it's a short story. It's I can't really say too much more about it. It's only 4 pages, and I'm working on page 1, panel 1. As you can see here, it's an umibozu, like a big old water demon.
oh,
Appears in the
naturally.
sea,
Oh,
makes everything really stormy, and there's like a fleet of like Nautilus style future ships that are like getting destroyed by the waves. So this is something I am horrible at drawing. Any kind of vehicle includes ships. Unless it's like old and rickety, like I can't draw it. So these things are like it's impossible to figure out. I kind of based them on like how a
Hold on.
coelacanth looks.
Becky, you just drew a car recently for
Yeah.
for a project we will
It
not
was like-
talk about.
It was
But
like a
the-
quarter of a car.
But this car looked so. She drew it. It wasn't like she pulled up a car and like traced the shit. She drew it, and it looked so perfect that like it may as well have been a photo. And she had that moment where she was like, "Do you think people are gonna like think this is photo ref?" And I was like, "It looks like a goddamn photo."
Well, I was looking at a photo when I did it. That's how I got it looking that
Yeah,
way.
but I guess when I say photo ref, I mean,
I wanted
like,
it to look hand drawn.
did you pull
And
it
it-
over and draw it?
It was too tight. Like in the end, it was like not grungy enough or something. I don't know. Anyway, I just have trouble with like the like designs, like ship designs, car designs, drawing cars.
I do too, until I find an organic like reference point. Like the thing that kind of really blew my mind, it made me realize how I should be thinking when I design anything mechanical, was Lilo and Stitch, because all
Oh
the
yeah.
ships were designed after marine life.
Oh, whoa.
Like when I got the book that was like the art of, and I saw that, I was like, oh my God. And I watched the movie again. It was like, oh, that spaceship's a manta ray. Oh, that's
Yeah. That's
That's
what
cool.
I tried to do with these ships to make them look like. Do you know that big fish called a coelacanth? Like I'm pretty sure I'm
Of
pronouncing that
course.
right. It's like got crazy big jaws and like it
Yeah.
looks like it's wearing a suit of armor. They live
Yeah.
like on the bottom of the sea. They have like fins that are like kind of half legs,
You
Yeah.
see him in
They're
those.
like little nubbies.
Is that the one you see in the documentaries that looks like a fucking ghoul?
Yeah, it's like no, it's a dinosaur fish. It's not a ghoul fish.
I know
It's
you're
not like
talking
the
about.
angler. It's not the anglers. It's not like
I'm not talking about the
glowy and
anglers. I'm
stuff.
talking about one time I smoked a little ism, and I
I
put
love that you
on.
just called it ism. Oh my God, that's so awesome. I was running this week on my mix. Mad ism came up.
That's
whole song. I just love that.
Yeah.
Song. I'm sorry.
I put on one of those deep sea things, and I didn't realize like a lot of that shit's fake. Like they're real things that exist, but like they gotta kind of recreate it
Yeah,
because
'cause
the
they don't
cameras
have-
will explode.
Yeah.
And I
Some of them
always,
aren't. Some of them they put like it's like filmed from like a deep sea like submarine kind of thing that usually doesn't have people in it. And sometimes they'll have to like put bait out or something for the fish to actually come because it's just so desolate down there. Like there's the chances of actually finding something. But yeah, those like angler fish when they look like puppets just like floating around, it's like, what are you doing?
yeah,
But I appreciate it. I like it.
I appreciate it too. I'm always worried with these nature documentaries. I'm too sensitive to see like a lot of these like great hunts where it's like, yeah, have you ever seen that one where it's all the snakes coming out of the holes, coming
Yes.
after these like, oh my God. I was having fits watching that because you want the snakes to get their meal. Like they gotta eat too. And you gotta do some population control, I'm sure. It seemed like there were a lot of those aquatic geckos or whatever. Like there isn't enough food for all them boys. But on the same hand, that one that's running and doing all the Indiana Jones style escapes and everything,
Parkour.
yeah, he's doing parkour. You want him to go. You're like, just get out of there, bud. Like you got no business in that den of evil, that den of villainy.
The ten of evil.
But it's not even evil. It's like when you watch snow leopards chasing down these bunnies and stuff. It's like some of those bunnies gotta go. You know, you got
And there's like
we
8 snow leopards left in the world.
yeah.
Yeah, that's sad.
So you gotta root for them. But watching the animals eat each other isn't like, it's not my idea of good entertainment. I when I was a kid, we watched a lot of stuff like that, and it was very formative. And there was this one that I remember that really disturbed me. It was like there's a spot under like a tree in Africa where during the rainy season a bunch of water would collect, and it turned into like a little oasis in the middle of this like savanna plain, and all these creatures would come, and when there was plenty of water, all the creatures would live in peace. There's like all these like monkeys and jaguars and whatever type of creatures live in that environment, gazelles, everything. They weren't even looking at each other. They were just like drinking water and having fun. In short order, that stuff starts drying up. And it starts running out of water. There's crocodiles in the water. There's all this stuff going on. And as it starts drying up, they start predating each other more and more. They start eating each other. By the end, it's just like this muddy hole, and like these crocs or gators are like eating the monkeys, and the gazelles are getting fucked up, and everybody's like messing with each other. And to me, like at the time, I was like, man, that's some dire stuff. And now that I'm a grown man living in a like capitalist society,
Oh, right. Yeah.
I kind of get it, you know, like
Right.
everybody's all generous and loving and caring when there's plenty to go around, and then once that thing starts drying up, people start getting animalistic and start eating each other. And that's kind of like the time that we live in right now, where it's like I just don't want to be a predator in that world, you know. I want to be like, I want to try and these animals aren't capable of thinking in a way like, hey, we got to ration this water, we got to take care of each other.
Right. This is a good conversation because this is something I've been thinking about a lot lately. So I've been listening to I listen to a lot of audiobooks, and I've spent the past year basically listening to like I guess you'd call them mental health or self-help type books.
You got any to suggest, man?
Yeah, I do. I do. I've listened to some ones that have really changed a lot of how I think in my life and have allowed me to get through. I think we talked about this, probably not on the podcast, but I think we talked about this in person. Like I was going through a depression for a few years and how I came out of it. Did we have that conversation?
Man,
I
we
think we
we've talked
touched on
about
it.
Okay.
it
So,
doesn't matter if we've had it on here before, because for some people, like, you know,
yeah,
you gotta revisit topics like
sure,
self-help.
sure.
You know, like self-help, I think a lot of people like to like talk shit on self-help,
Yeah,
but I
dude,
think
yeah,
it's like,
they do, but that's fine. It helped me so much. It just if you're able to sort of evaluate yourself and like if you can look at yourself objectively, I guess, then these books are great. If you can admit that to yourself, like that's not a good way to think or a good way to act. If you can see that in yourself, then these books are great. So I think the first one I listened to, and this one I listened to like 5 times in a row. Like I hit bottom. I started listening to this. I think it was right when I got that Juggernaut book for Marvel. And like I hadn't gotten a call for freelance work in a long time and just struggling financially and just I'd been depressed for like good 2 years, not even knowing it. Because like depression, you can feel happy on a day to day basis in a way. Like you can just not be aware of it.
right, or you
And,
can suppress it, or you can
right,
like, yeah, you
right,
don't stop being depressed because you had some good luck one day. You know, it's like,
right, exactly. And I wasn't aware of it. I guess there was when I look back at some of my behavior and things how I would act or things I would say, I would feel like what the fuck was I thinking? But so I got this Juggernaut book. Right before that, I was just like, I need to figure out why at my age, with my talent, with my like work history, why am I still struggling on so many levels, financially, professionally, personally? I was like, it's got to be me.
hmm,
So I I was also a staunch at this time atheist, and I'm not a believer in God. I just wasn't open to spirituality in any form or anything outside of cold hard science.
right.
And I think that had a lot to do with just how I was seeing everything, just cold hard stuff. So the first book I listened to was called You Are a Badass, which is, people hear that and they hear self-help books, are like, yeah, that's typical. But that was a really good one. And it kind of introduced me to the idea of self-help and the idea of how your thoughts manifest a reality that you can live in.
How did
And
that book come to you? Like, did
um
somebody put you on it, or?
yeah, I'm trying to remember. uh Damn, I wish I could remember that one, because that, like, I'm not the type of person, like, I picked it for a reason. I want to, oh, fuck, I don't remember, dude.
It's all good.
Um, it might have been a friend on Facebook got it, or I don't know. I heard about it somewhere. I know I didn't just discover it.
Right.
And so I listened to it, and it took me a little while to open my mind to some of the ideas of just like thinking positively and how that could affect you. I was like, yeah, that like my old way of thinking was like thinking being optimistic doesn't change anything. Like reality is reality, but reality is perception, I guess. But the book explained how your thoughts kind of control your perceptions and how you see things. And someone who's optimistic will see something differently than someone who's pessimistic. And so that I understood.
Right.
And so I listened to it like a good 3 times. I listened to it twice. Like the first time was just to take in the information because it was also new to me. Then the second time was um, to really digest it, and that's when I was like, all right, this is good. This is very helpful, and this is good.
That's
And
diligent, man.
I listened to it like 5 times through because there was so much in there, and so much of it was so new to me that I just I wanted to digest all of it. So that opened the door, and that got me thinking differently and helped. And then after the Juggernaut book, things did get worse in a lot of ways, but I wasn't getting more depressed. And it was
That's 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 when you know the shit's working, though.
right. So what was happening was I started listening to other books, and so shit was getting worse and worse, but I was learning to deal with it. And I think that's like when I look back at like life and think about things happening for a reason, I'm like, all right, so that was the lesson for me, was to learn to deal with things not going well and it not affect me so much and still have a good outlook on things.
Right.
So it was that book, and then I don't remember the exact order, but I listened to that, and then I think next was a book called The Power of Now at Work. That one was recommended to me by Jason Sean Alexander.
Who's it by? Is it Eckhart Tolle?
No, that's The Power of Now, which I did listen to years and years and years ago, and that sort of sent me down a journey of Eastern ideas. That
Yeah.
one. No, this is more about um, I guess performance and attitude while you're working, and it really changed my life because at that point, what had happened was there was so much pressure on me financially and professionally that my art had just become so stressful to do. I wasn't even realizing it, but I wasn't enjoying it. It had become work. I was in there to get it done, to get a paycheck. And the
Yeah.
work itself was suffering from that. And I wasn't,
Becky's had moments like that. It's
yeah,
hard when you like develop a name as a creator and then you realize like, oh, something changed somewhere to where this was a thing that I used to do because it was my love and my passion, and now it's become a thing that I have to do. Like I have to
right,
do this.
right. Now, if I was like really like had like financial security and was feeling very comfortable, then I would feel differently, but I wasn't. So it's like here I am. I've turned drawing into my job, and I don't even know like how I'm gonna get groceries next week, or like
Yeah.
pay for a kid's doctor visit, like shit like that. So I was like, now that could definitely be because the drawing itself is suffering, and that's causing you to not move forward professionally because of the artwork. I mean, maybe people feel that shit when they see it. They feel the like pain and struggle and stress of the drawing just by looking at it. No one's going to want to look at that.
When you were that, I remember that time you were doing a lot of like fill-in stuff. Like people would call you and be like, hey, someone like couldn't do this issue, can you do it in 2 weeks? And then you'd be like, I've got to do this thing, but it's like super rushed, and you
Yes,
can never feel like you can shine under those circumstances. So it
right,
stinks to, and then the thing that sucks about getting stuck in that way is like the editors start to like, oh, call Sean will do it in 2 weeks. You
right,
become this guy that's like, I
right.
mean, yes, it's good to be reliable, but it's like a double-edged sword.
Right. It's like, yeah, exactly. You like I always wanted to be the like special project artist who gets to shine on whatever they do, but don't get a ton of work, but the work they do, they're proud of. And here I
Yeah.
had become like the utility artist.
I've gotten jobs like that, and I've never been happy with any of them. And it's always like you can't even be excited when the book comes out. You're just like, well, that's a
Right.
paycheck that I got, but like I'm not happy with it, you know? Like
Yeah, I never
it
looked at the books I drew. Never. I just
that's it's a good way to like get the wind knocked out of your sails, and then you get stuck in this loop as far as like your career goes. So it's a difficult thing to, on one hand it's good to have work, but on the other hand, is it worth it to be like typecast like that, so to speak.
right, exactly. So that's exactly what I was going through in my head, were those exact thoughts. And I was like, I don't want to be that. So I have to rearrange this, and I have to change course. And I was also starting to like really accept the idea that Marvel and DC, it's not going to happen there. Like I really have to lean into figuring out how to get to create our own comics and doing this, because that's why I got into comics, was to do that. And I remember growing up, like I would look at like Frank Miller. I was like, all right, so he was my favorite, and when he did Sin City, I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to do Sin City, but in order to do that, you got to go have your Batman and your Daredevil, and like you have to get a name for yourself at these bigger publishers, which at the time I had come up with this thought was true, but things had changed, and I can get like tunnel vision or stubborn focus and not realize things. So that took me a while.
Yeah, it's
But
hard when you think you have a path for yourself. You're like, this is how I'm going to get from point A to point B, and you set up these goals, and then when those goals aren't achieving, you're not able to like step from one to the next one. It's
right,
hard to like see that you can deviate from that path without like being untrue to yourself, you know what I mean? Like it feels like, no, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, but then
right.
thinking like, you do have flexibility, and you can get there from like almost any, there's like lateral steps you can take to get to where you want to be.
Yes, yes. So, and Michael, I think this is around the time where we first hung out, because it was like I did that Juggernaut book, and then I went to New York Comic Con a couple weeks later, and then a couple weeks after that, we were in North Carolina. And
Right.
by that point, I listened to You Are a Badass. I listened to The Power of Now at work, which is really great. Like it just made me like, I didn't realize how much stress and tension my body was holding as I was drawing, just from the way I was sitting to all kinds of stuff. So that book kind of woke me up to a lot of stuff that I was going through with while I was working, and schedule. Like it really helped me see like drawing had become very like I said, stressful, but also anxiety. Like I was scared to do it, because I was at a point where I was like, my work obviously isn't very good because it's not getting me anywhere. And so I would sit down with that, and so sitting down to draw always felt like there was so much pressure on me to perform at a higher level than I was performing at. And so the book was like, kind of got me thinking like it would say like, so organize your day. Like I also was living a way where I was like, I got to go in and get this much done today, and have no schedule other than in my head I have to get that much done. And if I didn't get that much done, it put pressure on every day after that until the deadline. And the truth is, my expectations were unrealistic, and I didn't stop to consider that. So I was
Right.
always under that sort of pressure. And so the book was like, the prioritize. I was like, oh, that's a new idea. And
Isn't it funny? Like something that seems like it seems rudimentary, It
right,
seems like this is a thing that you've heard so many times, but you don't know it until it's like really like fucking up your creative life or your relationship or something that counts.
yes, yes, exactly. It was so much like common sense stuff, but I think I just get tunnel. Like I'm so stubborn. I have tunnel vision. I don't.
It's so much easier to like analyze this stuff after all the events have happened, because when
Right,
you're living it, it's like there's too many other things to focus on. Like it's really hard to like take yourself out of this exact present moment. That's why like if you're like in an argument or something, you have to take time to cool down so you can like see
Right.
what is it actually that I'm arguing about? Like, am I actually right in this situation, or am I just being stubborn, or are these like outside influences, really clouding my vision? Or
Exactly.
do I have a right to be angry? Like what is
Right.
going on here? So I think
Right.
that's, it's just hard.
And
It's hard.
that was a big lesson for me, was to not let my emotions rule me. And that's what, like, the end of this road is learning to not react emotionally to everything and not think about why you're acting that way or why you're feeling that way. So that's kind of where I am now. But let me back up to, so that book, so like the first thing that book did was like, if you prioritize and you schedule, take your hardest task, the one you're looking forward to the least, and start your day with it for 15 minutes. Don't worry about anything, just do it for 15 minutes. And so like I would normally come into the studio, have my coffee and do my emails, but now I started just coming in before my coffee, before my emails, just I'd sit down and get my pencil moving for 15 minutes. And what that did was it made my mind, so I would stop. I realized 15 minutes was too short because I was starting to enjoy it. And so I gave myself an hour. And at the end of the hour, no matter where the drawing was, I would stop. And it would allow my mind to keep working on that while I was doing the emails, and it made me want to get back, and like I would bang through my emails faster so I could get back to it. And it allowed that
Right.
gray matter to work out problems, which is an idea I'd never thought about or heard about either, was allowing the gray matter in your brain just to work it out. Like
Yeah.
not consciously, subconsciously. And that gets back to my cold, hard scientific look on things, but this shit works. You can like put something in your head, do something else, and your mind will fucking solve the problem without
Totally.
you consciously thinking about it. So that was cool.
There's a place where science and spirituality kind of they kind of mix and mingle,
Yeah,
and that's kind of the place that I like to live in.
me too.
Even if
Me too.
even if like at my essence, ass to the fire, if I was like, hey man, you know, it is what it is. We're a bunch of chemical reactions. Like, um, I choose I choose my perspective, and
Right.
that's like the one great power of being a conscious and sentient being, is you can choose your shit. You can choose how you're going to react to a situation. You can choose if you're going to give something value. um, I choose what I value in life. I choose to
Right.
be,
Right.
like, it's not like me falling in love with Becky was something that I was not in control of. No, I fucking chose her. I think she's awesome.
Right.
Like, it wasn't
Right.
like uh I was told that she's the one. It's I chose. I was like, oh, look at her, she's cool. Uh and I think like that you can do the same thing with your self image. It's something that I struggle with. It's something that's why like I will never shit on somebody on like a self-help tip, because I get it. Because if you aren't helping yourself, nobody's gonna help you.
Right. Exactly.
Straight up, like, and you can be surrounded by loving, giving people, but man, have you ever been around somebody who's like irrepressibly toxic and sad and
Yeah.
messed up all the
Yeah.
time? It's like
I
I
was worried
can't.
that was me. Like I
It
was.
probably was. It
Yeah.
probably was, wasn't it? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you don't know it when you're doing it. And I
No.
I catch myself sometimes around Becky. I'll be like, man, she's such like a beacon of strength, and she has her moments, don't get me wrong, like she's a human being, god damn it, but she'll have like moments where she's down. But I notice when I'm getting out of pocket, it's like I've already called in a bunch of favors in terms of her being emotionally available for me this week. I
Right.
better pump the brakes on that and just like give her a little bit of a break. And I don't think you should suppress your feelings, but I do think like be kind to your partner, like give your partner a break every now and then. Yeah, you might
There's a
feel like
difference
you're
between like suppressing your feelings and
chill with them.
chilling with them. Yeah.
Sit with your feelings for a minute. You don't gotta
Right.
bring in your partner on every little sadness that is befalling you every day, because you do that too much and it gets really not only tiring, but it becomes this thing that infects the entire household, and you don't want to be that person. So do some
Right.
self-help, like read some books. Like I think it's so cool that you're like sharing that, because like we're living in an age where it behooves us to like get get honest about our feelings about things. But
Yeah.
there comes a point where it's like, listen, you've crossed the line between being uh self-aware and becoming somebody who's just a negative Nelly. Like go do some reading, go do some meditation, go pray, go find your path, man.
Yes.
Like
Yes. And meditation is a big part of all this.
you gotta.
Yeah. So that's also around the time I started meditating every morning. I mean, I do yoga and I obviously meditate there, but this was just meditation alone without the yoga. So
That's
that
cool.
book helped. And then I listened to another book called Unfuck Yourself, which was
I've heard
short.
about this book.
Yeah, that's a good one. And the author is Scottish and he reads it and he's got this real thick Scottish brogue, which makes it a lot more enjoyable to listen to. I mean,
Funny how that works, huh?
yeah.
It's like I'm gonna take you serious because you don't talk the way that I do. And for whatever reason, like certain accents have become like more trusted or something.
Right.
Like you ever notice in movies, like the scientist is always gonna have a British accent
Right,
because
of
we
course.
like, for
Right.
whatever reason, we associate
Right.
it with being smart.
Exactly. But there are some self-help books like the You Are a Badass. The author reads it and she's very colorful and her voice has character in it, and so that's great. But there was a couple that are just dull, like the Eckhart
Yeah,
Tolle book was hard to listen to. While I loved the concepts it presented, it was
you
listening.
gotta find the one that works for you.
Right, right.
Nothing, no shame in that, like.
No. So after um Unfuck Yourself, I had been introduced to this Japanese idea called ikigai. Have you heard of this?
I don't think I ever have.
All right, so ikigai is it's basically the Japanese practice of appreciating the moment. And
Okay.
it was really, I mean, the book talks about Japanese culture and cites all these examples of how the Japanese will find pleasure in some of the simplest and most mundane of activities, and how important and how that not just important that is, but how that helps you just be in the now and
Yeah.
enjoy things. So they told a story of this church in Japan that, and I don't remember the reason why, but it's a very historic church. It's on sacred ground, or temple, I shouldn't say church. And so every few years when it needs to be touched up, they disassemble the entire structure brick by brick and then rebuild it back brick by brick.
That's
And
awesome. How often do they do that?
I don't remember how often this is. But it's one person's job and passion to oversee this project.
That's
And
so
I
cool.
love that idea. Like they get pleasure in the building of it, not in the product.
Right.
So I thought that was interesting. And that just little things like in the morning, I have this like little bag in my studio of like this really good organic dark chocolate. And I don't eat a lot of sugar, but when in the morning I come in and I have a little one of those. And it's just a way to appreciate it. Because another concept that I was having trouble with was I get up early. I want to get up and get the day going, and I don't want to feel like I'm letting time slip by.
Yeah.
And so the alarm would go off, and I'd just wake up with a pit of dread in my stomach every day. And
Yeah.
it sucked. And I was like, I want to wake up and feel excited. So these little things like you wake up and you're like, I can't wait to have coffee and a little piece of chocolate. And it gets you like, you want to get out of bed and get going.
Right.
That shit was cool. So that was the book on Ikigai. That was good. Um, and then I just finished one that had some good information. I'm gonna pull up my Audible and see what it was called. But when it was over, I was like, "Oh, good, that one's over." Um,
I've read
Hey,
books like that.
yeah, even good shit. Like there's been times where Becky and I were watching like a TV series that we both liked, and when you get to the final episode, it's like, yeah, now we get to like go do something different.
right, right,
Or I've been playing video games, and I'll like finish a video game, and I'll be like, I'm free. It's like
right, right.
I don't gotta keep doing this shit anymore.
Well, so I'm looking at my books. So I listened to The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, and that one, I think by that point I had moved beyond it. So it didn't give me any real good information.
Right. At this point, you're on your brown belt, and that one
Right,
you just you've gained certain skills that make that one
right,
less
right.
necessary.
And then the other one I listened to is called Rising Strong, which um, was about the lady who wrote it. She's a sociologist, and the book is about how getting knocked down only strengthens those who succeed because they build up from that. So it was all about that moment of you've just been knocked down. Why are you getting back up to do this again?
Right.
And it's a real good look. I found her some of her writing was a bit pretentious, but the information was good. So I listened to that one a few times. And I had a so my whole point to all of this is
It's
getting
good
back.
shit. It's good
Yeah, well,
shit.
that's true. But it was getting to a concept you were just talking about. So now I'm like, all right, so I need to understand money a little better because I'm obviously not, just by the constant financial struggles I have. And so I'm listening to a book about money and finance. It's called Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah, I've heard about this
And
book.
it really is like, oh shit, I wish I would have heard this when I was younger. I would have really acted very differently and understood things a little better. But it brings up this idea. So like the book is about this guy, and he grew up saying he had a rich dad and a poor dad. So his dad was a college professor in Hawaii and a respected, educated man who made decent money, but never was always struggling to pay bills. And then his best friend growing up, his dad at a very young age, they there's a whole story of how they wanted to learn to make money when they were kids. And that kid's dad, you come to find out, is a really successful businessman, and he calls him his rich dad. So he talks about how the thought process of the poor dad helped manifest money problems there, but the rich dad helped gain wealth. But part of it is the rich dad has a very cold, uncaring look at the world to some extent. And it's like I understand the concept of like having a strong like drive and a strong push towards success for yourself. But one of the concepts I can't get past, like I can never look at someone who's having financial problems and and think like he talks about the our tax system and how poor and middle class people aren't taking advantage of the system, and it's like the system's fucked. So
Right.
from the rich dad's perspective is like I know I'm going to make myself some money and accept that it's fucked and make it work for me, and I can't just stop there. Like that's a concept I have issue with, because
Right.
I do have a part of me that is like it's not a poor person's not poor because it's their fault necessarily.
Yeah.
Say that about it. Shit is hard
No
out
one,
there.
no one chooses to be poor.
Right. So, and I understand that people might make poor financial decisions, as I myself have done, but to act, I don't know, I guess to have the attitude like, well, that's their fault. It's like, well, why don't you just not be a dick and sort of help them out?
Yeah. Or maybe it's the fault of we don't live in a country that gives people the tools that they really need to be able to
Right.
be informed about, you
Right.
know, especially right now where people are taking unemployment at time, like maybe for the first time in their life.
Yeah.
No one ever taught you how to take advantage of government assistance. And I don't mean take advantage of like abuse it. I mean like you pay fucking taxes. If you like part of your taxes that you pay are so that when you have a period of unemployment, you aren't just stuck eating top ramen every day.
Right.
It's so that you paid taxes, man. You deserve to be able to
Right.
survive.
And right, exactly. And the rich dad's thing was taxes are just bullshit. And I'm like, well, I don't think I can't ever think that way. I
Yeah,
have I have
maybe I'm
schools, I
cool.
have roads. Like taxes serve a purpose.
Yeah.
So
I do.
I don't know.
I
So
think I think there could be some major reformation, but for right now, like I'm cool with paying taxes if it means my neighbor, when they're out of work, can afford to live long enough to be able to find new work. You
right,
know,
right.
because
It gets down to the idea that I think you and I are we believe in the importance of community. Whereas I think one of the issues I have with like the rich dad concept is it's all about yourself. And I'm just not wired that way.
man,
Yeah.
I wonder if like the point of that book is to be like, man, fuck the rich dad.
It's
Dude's
not, I
got
mean,
such a
I'm only talking about like when he tells these stories, like the rich dad does a lot of kind things as well. So like he has all these employees working for him in all these businesses who he really cares about and cares for and is very kind to. So I don't mean to make it sound like it's all that, but it's just you were talking about, I think we were talking about I don't know if this is how far back it's gone, the snow leopards, and just having a caring attitude to the world around you and trying
right.
to help in community, help in nature, help in any way you can. And I guess
Yeah.
it's one of the concepts I'm wrestling with is I don't want to always have these financial struggles. So, but at the same time, I can't just be a cold business person. So I have to
Right.
figure out what that means. And that's just something I wrestle with, I guess.
Yeah. It's that drying up thing under that tree, you know? It's when the animals start eating each other. And I think that's kind of like what it's almost like the name of the game right now is if you want to thrive, you got to be ready to kill that monkey in the tree, even though that's not your like food source or whatever.
Right.
Like these
Right.
lions were like killing these monkeys, and
Right.
it's not even a bite to them, but they're starving, so they got to kill these monkeys. And that's that shit's whack. But when you're starving, you're gonna do what you're gonna do to get by. And I think we always convince ourselves that we're starving. We do it because we're fed this line about, you gotta have more than the next guy. You gotta be balling. You gotta have the best car, the best this, the best that. And I think the sooner you can shake that off, I was lucky enough that I grew up poor, so like I never really had any delusions of wealth. But there was a period in my life when I was working in mental health and I was doing pretty well, and I was with somebody who like wanted to. I was just talking with Becky about this the other day. Somebody who like wanted and desired a lifestyle that it was different than what I wanted, and I found myself like playing that game, being like, oh yeah, we need a new car, we need a bigger place, we need this and that. And then it was almost like when that relationship ended, there was this like deprogramming period where it was like, oh yeah, that's not who the fuck I am at all. Like
Right.
that's
Right.
but it's easy to get to that place because that's the metric that your worth is based on in a lot of people's eyes. I'm sure you've got a lot of cool friends, but you've also got friends who will like pick on you if you're driving an ugly car or something. It's like
Ditch those friends.
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, I used to probably, but I don't think I have too many of those friends anymore.
I mean, shit, I don't have many great friends. Forget about like negative, like
Right.
I'm of an age now where my friends I'm not interested in collecting friends. I'm interested in maintaining friends. Making new friends is always cool, but it's like I remember there was a time where I was like actively like looking for new friends.
Oh,
Just
okay. Right.
different season of my life, or looking to be popular, or looking for affirmation,
Right.
or
And
what
that,
have
yeah,
you.
that's so going down that self-help trip that also came up was just, I guess I was always looking for like some sort of acceptance through my artwork, I guess. And that was another thing. I was like, what are you doing? Like
I
I
That's a
had,
continue.
dangerous road.
I
yeah.
continued to do that. I think
Well, I was
I was
judging the value of my work based on that, and that was silly.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Don't do that.
No.
But part of the game is capturing and commanding attention, right?
Right.
So part of that is
Right.
like
Right.
I'm doing this for me, but I'm also doing it for you.
Sure.
I'm also doing it because like I want you to show up for this, have my back,
Right.
because this one, like you did a Juggernaut book. You're like, this is my fucking Juggernaut. Like, I hope you like it because one day I'm gonna ask you to show up for a thing where it's like from my mind, or
Right.
from the minds of me and my people, and I want you there for that. So can I hook you over here? Can I hook you with this Batman drawing? Because
Yeah.
you
Well,
know,
I think like I said, I think that's an old model. I think it's a flawed model now. I don't think you have to do that. Like, look, it took a while, but I look at music. So I look at the music I like and I grew up on. It's a lot of punk rock and metal and underground hip hop and some popular hip hop too. But it's like my heroes aren't on the top 40 most of the time.
right?
So why am I expecting that of myself with my work when the work that inspires and influences me isn't that. And the work that is on the top 40 stuff I can't stand most of the time.
Right.
So I feel like where I am now, I'm just interested in trying to do what I do and find the people that like that. You know, recently, shit, I gotta remember this. This is a really good illustration to what you were saying. It was, yeah, it was when this whole thing started with the coronavirus and the books shutting down, and uh, Declan was talking about, he didn't like stand the ground. He was just saying, I wonder how this is going to affect things. And I was like, I think it's going to create a lot of opportunities when artists and creators realize I can just sell directly to my fans and I don't need it to be Spider-Man to hit that. And I was like, you'll sell less books or you'll sell less, whatever format you're doing it. You might sell less, but you'll probably make more because you're cutting
Right.
out the middleman. And someone tweeted back, you're like, a fan was like, well, you're making the mistake that people are reading the book because of your work, not the character. I was like, see, that's my point, is that
Some
fan
people,
I don't
yeah.
need.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
don't want that. That's not, and they're not a fan. You know, they're a
Right.
fan of the character, but
Right.
that has nothing to do with you normally. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Exactly.
Like, yeah, you might get some royalties, but royalties in the long run, like, you know, unless you're working on Batman, you know, it's like,
Right.
oh,
So yeah, I'm like comfortable in saying I mean, I really kind of by design and kind of by circumstance am not getting freelance work offers, and it's like, okay, now's your chance to just do creator-owned comics with people you like. So that's what I got.
right.
Which
And
is
that's like, it's so funny. Like, I think it used to be go make your name as a creator-owned person, and then maybe like Marvel will give you a crack. And now it's like the complete opposite. It's
yeah, it used to be
now,
like, go get your image, get your little image book, do your
right.
little creator own thing, and then like maybe Marvel will like ask you to dance. But now it's the exact opposite, it seems like.
now it's doing the creator-owned thing is the goal. You know, now
Yeah.
it's like
Right. Right.
that's what I'm meant to be doing. And nobody counted on the internet, man. The internet happened, and now like you really can go direct to consumer on everything.
Yeah.
I was just talking to a publisher the other day about this direct to consumer initiative that they're launching, and I had kind of pitched them on something, and they're like, hey, like, you might want to consider this thing that we're doing direct to consumer. And I looked at the contract, and it was pretty average. It was pretty good. But all that I could think was like, man, I could do that. Like, I could do that on my own.
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
like what? Not only could I do it on my own, but I wouldn't have to like share the rights to anything. I wouldn't have to like check with mom and dad if somebody wanted to make a TV show out of it or
Right.
whatever.
And that's
So really the value in working with them would be, you know, hopefully they're gonna like have a PR team that's like pushing this book into new hands, which would expand my audience. But like there's things I can be doing to expand my audience on my own that are probably just as effective. You know, like what you're doing with this podcast is like it's such an opportunity for you and your people and for us to get together and share who we are without any filters or bullshit and just be like, yeah, like this is what we do every day, you know? We like
right.
we draw pictures or write stories and hope that people show up enough that we can keep doing it. And even if they don't, then you just keep doing it anyway. So it's like
Right. Right. And
Yeah, I think like, what would I be doing if I wasn't doing this comic right now? I'd probably just be working on a different comic. You know?
Yeah.
Right.
It never ends. I was saying to Becky, I was like, yeah, like with this thing that I'm working on right now, I was like, this is the second to last page of the book. And I was like very excited to know, like, oh, that means like I can work on another thing next. You know, it's like, oh shit. There's like no, you don't get a breath. It's like you're going from one thing to the next, and that's the exciting thing, is knowing like I can do this forever. No one
Yeah.
can stop me. No one can tell me like, hey, the book got canceled or anything like that, because it doesn't matter. That's that's not it's not what it's all about. Now obviously there's like the financial end of things where like you want to be eating right and stuff, but shit, the economy right now isn't even ready to sustain people who are working regular normal jobs. So it's like
Right. Exactly.
we're all fucked.
That was when I was really trying to leave teaching. That was something I just had to really think about. Was like I would say teaching because I'd say it gives me security and all that, but I was seeing people getting let go of all the time. I'm like, why do I feel like this is any more secure than being in charge of my own shit? Like
Yeah.
if I rely on myself, that sounds like more security.
Yeah. And when something's out of your hands, like the global economy being in the pits right now, I really struggled to get going, and I continue to struggle every day to an extent, to be like, fuck, like gotta get up and work on these things that like I don't know like what I'm gonna do with them. But it just makes me remember like a younger version of myself who didn't give a shit. Who was just like, yo, I'm in bands and I make comics and stuff like that, and I lose money on everything that I do, but this is my legacy. There's gonna
Right.
come a day. There's gonna come a day where my meat body shuts down, and I'm just this broken down thing where people are trying to figure out how to like get rid of the waste material that was my body, and I want, along with that. The other day I posted some old pictures of me from like
I saw that.
being in bands and shit, and
Yeah.
somebody posted something. It was so flattering. They were like, wow, I didn't know you were a musician too. And I had that moment of like pride where it was like, yeah, I did that, you know,
Right.
like.
That's good you had that.
And I think that it's important for everybody, like whether you're an artist or whatever, like whatever your creative thing is, like do it and do it a bunch, and like document it and share it with the people that you love, because that's your legacy, man. Like that's a I look at morbidly, I'll like read uh obituaries and stuff, and it'll be like, yeah, this dude died, he worked for like 20 years at Kroger, and it's, man, mad respect to you if you work in a supermarket for 20 years, but that's like that's the thing that like they're gonna write in your obituary. Like I would much rather it would be like he worked at Kroger for all these years, but he was like really into tap dancing, or
Right.
he like did oil paintings of his grandkids or something like that.
Right.
If you're
This
comfortable.
reminds me of a comic called, I think it's called like The Ballad of Onion Jack, maybe? It's a Tom Gould comic. And Michael, I know I've talked to your ear about this comic, and it's like, it was a free comic book day book from like
I
Fantagraphics back
I
in
read
like
it.
2004.
Becky made me read it in her parents' basement back in New
Oh yeah, I
Hampshire
found
when we
my
were packing
copy.
up. Yeah,
When
it's
did
brilliant.
you read this first, Becky?
It was like I got it at like an SPX or something like a long time ago. And Tom Gould's like a genius storyteller. Like he does
You
mostly
familiar
like,
with his stuff at all?
No, I'm not.
Stick figures, my man. The
yeah,
most
it's all
perfect
like,
stick figures ever.
it's so smart, and he's so good at like just telling a story, but his art is so like, I, I mean, I guess you could call it simplistic because it is stick figures, but it's also like, um, just, I don't know, he's able to just capture like the essence of what he's trying to do so perfectly with so few lines, you know? But
Right.
this, anyway, the story is there's this guy named Onion Jack, and he's got a head that looks like an onion, and he's a superhero, and he spends his whole life doing superhero things, like going to the future, going to the past, like beating up giant monsters, all this stuff, saving the world many times over. And then he retires, and at the very end of his, you know, and he goes through, they have like the new superheroes come in, and it's like all these kids, and you know, he doesn't understand it, so he finally retires and he becomes a chef. And he, you know, in the last couple of years of his life, he like wins all these awards, and he like opens up a bistro, and he's like super happy, and then he passes away, and on his gravestone it's like, here lies Onion Jack, and it's this big long thing about how he like revolutionized cooking and like all this stuff. And it's like, before that he had a career in law enforcement.
Oh, wow.
But it was like the entire story was him being a superhero, and the last like page and a half was him with the restaurant. And it always made me think like, that's a great comic about legacy and what that means, you know?
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
I'm pretty, I think about legacy a lot. Like, I think about when comic creators just take a gig to, like, because they're making good money doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, like, oh man, like, I get it. Like, believe me, I get it. Like, money is big. Like, you gotta make money. But I think about, like, man, but right now, you gotta be doing that thing that is, like, what you're remembered for.
Right. That's exactly where I am in life. That's all I want to do right now is.
I don't have to worry about that anymore because my legacy is already secure. No matter what I do in the future, it's going to be first one to draw Batman on the gravestone. No matter what else I achieve, that's going to be the thing that like people will
Yeah,
post about.
there's worse
It's
fates.
yeah, but
Becky-
also it's a little like, well,
Yeah, I mean,
it's
yeah.
cool. It's cool.
But
I'm
you
being
won.
silly about
What
it.
was that award in Japan you won? Didn't you win an award for?
It was like an honorable mention. It was like a second or third place or something for like a manga award, an international manga award. But I got to meet like the ambassador to Japan, and like that was pretty cool. And I got a little
That was
plaque from
for a
like the prime
mini.
minister. And
Oh wow.
no, that was from my Tokyo Pop book.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
That's pretty neat that
Yeah, I mean,
Japan would recognize.
that's really amazing. That really is amazing.
I think they were trying to do like it was an award because of like the popularity of manga and like the international community, and it was like a cultural ambassador type of award, you know.
I gotcha. And what was the name of that book?
It was called East Coast Rising, but it was one graphic novel, and then the second book, I think I got 120 pages in and they canceled it. So that'll never see the light of day. And at this point it's fine because it's been so long, you know.
120 pages, goddamn.
I know. I was so distraught when they canceled it. I don't even like talking about it still because it's like, ugh. But
Was that during
it's
the whole
probably fine.
Tokyo Pop blow up thing?
Yeah, when they like just, and the shitty thing is that company still has all the rights to it.
Oh.
So it's like I can't even publish it, you know.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, I could do it through Image, but then I owe Tokyo Pop like percentage of the royalties, and I'm like, I'm not doing that. Like, why would I put effort into something that's like benefiting a company that screwed me over and so many other people? So,
Right.
and it wasn't, you know, it's like a thing where I went into it signing the contract knowing it wasn't the best one, but then also knowing that like, you know, it just the way things happened there was so shitty beyond just the contracts. So,
Right. I gotcha.
you know,
Yeah, I mean, this all, I remember this all kind of vaguely just from being on the outside looking in.
They were the first company that paid me a rate that I could like quit my um I was doing like editorial work and storyboarding for commercials on the side,
Uh-huh.
and they were the first company that like paid me a wage for my comics that I could be like, okay, I'm just gonna like focus on this, which was nice. And it gave me a lot of opportunities, and my book was like nominated for a few awards, and that was all cool. So I can't say like if I had to go back in time and like, do I not sign the contract? I
Right.
think the thing that I would do differently is maybe like originally I was doing a series, but I had it so that the first book was like a standalone, and then the second and third book were kind of like connected to that. And they were like, well, we want it to be like a cliffhanger so that when people read the first book, they'll want to read the second one. And I
Right.
wish I would have like pushed back harder against that, because that's the thing that like bothers me with a book like that is like, well, now you don't get to finish what the story was. It's like just
Right.
it's a cliffhanger forever. So that's just
Becky,
annoying.
Becky still gets people at cons who come up and they're like, "When are you gonna do that?
Oh,
When are you
Yeah,
gonna
really?
I'm like,
finish that?"
never. It's never gonna happen. You can
Oh.
say that with I say never but I'll say never for that.
Well, you've grown a lot, and you've got a lot of stories to tell and a lot
Yeah.
of pages to draw. So it's like,
Don't remind me.
Comics.
Becky loves drawing. Like
I do love
she'll make
drawing.
jokes about it, but like, man, she draws so much. She doesn't
Yeah.
take much. The other night, she like, we went out. We had worked all day in the studio. We went out to like the couch to watch movies, and she'll normally bring her shit out there and just keep going. And she was like,
Like,
I
when you do that, Becky, are you doing work or are you just drawing for fun?
Sometimes, a lot of times I try and do it like the personal project at night,
Okay.
like if there's like a new pin I want to design, or like, you know, I just did a box design with my Oracle cards. So that was like the thing I was struggling with.
yeah,
Yeah.
she'll like almost uniformly shit. Like it's not even a question. Sometimes I'll get her shit and bring it out, like we'll finish eating and I'll just grab her stuff and bring it out, knowing this is what she's going to be doing. I'll save her a few steps. The other night, she was like, "Well, I think I'm done for the day," and it was maybe the second time I've ever heard her say that. And I was like, "Done drawing for the day?" And she
It
was
was like
like, "Yeah,
7 p.m. It's like, I think I might be done. Like, I think
yeah."
I'll stop now.
And it was like it was so good. I felt like it was such like a healthy choice to make. Like, yeah, you, um, it's so, but like even when it's like she's done drawing, like she said, she'll do a lot of personal stuff, or she'll like she can't stop. If there's like a sketchbook around, she's picking it up and drawing in it. So young people that love Becky's artwork and like want to be like Becky, like that's really the only advice is like Becky can't be stopped. She's a fucking um she's an animal.
I can't be stopped,
She
but I can be distracted.
yeah, Animal Crossing, but like shit, she could take off months and still be ahead of the game. Like she just goes.
Yeah.
And she's not necessarily like the quickest artist. Like there's certain things I've seen her like bang out a cover pretty quick. But it's like that comes from whatever speed she has comes from like the fact that she never stops drawing. So her hand is already warmed up.
Right.
Some
Right.
people gotta like do. Is that the cat yelling at us?
Yeah, he wants to get out. Hold on.
Um, but yeah, I always see people like posting warm up drawings and stuff, and it's like Man, I wonder if Becky like ever has to do like warm up drawings. It's a good. Becky, do you ever have to do a warm up drawing? And she's still
I
Becky.
What's up?
Do you ever have to do a warm up drawing?
I don't usually. I usually just jump right in.
Because she's wild.
Sometimes, like, if I warm up draw, it's like it'll just take over. You know what I mean? Like my
Yeah.
warm up drawing will become like the drawing that I'm doing.
I always see people like hashtagging stuff like warm up drawing or whatever, and
And
I
it's
always
like,
just
well,
want
you
to be
spent
like,
5 hours on that.
yeah, it's like fool. What do you mean? What are you warming up for any goddamn way?
Right.
Like you just maybe that's just like what you were saying, Sean. Like you go and you just get your hand moving kind of
Yes,
thing.
yes.
Maybe that's what they're saying, but it's like if you're calling something a warm up, like you better tell me what you're warming up for. I don't believe it anymore. You're warming up for shit. I
Yeah.
think the industry is wounded right now. Are you warming up to not have a book?
Right.
Warming up
Right.
for no distro or something?
Right. I mean, I'm like Becky. Like, just get yourself moving, and you'll warm up just through the act of working on whatever you got to work on.
Look at. Yeah, I finally looked at my screen to see what you're drawing. That's fucking awesome.
Who, me or Becky?
You.
Well,
I mean,
this is what I've been working on. I have a painted commission to do, and I finally, on this, got a thumbnail I like. I was like, kind of.
Oh, that's the hardest part.
I know. I was like, how am I going to podcast while thumbnailing?
Yeah, God, I don't know why you did that.
I just didn't have a choice. I have to get it going.
I'm sorry.
Figure it out. I'll figure it out. I was happy. It works. It works. I was happy. So now I'm working on some design work I got to do. But yeah, we were going to talk about from the beginning. We got going on about the virus stuff.
Well, we had started talking about I was talking with this like tattoo artist about working on a comic together.
Yeah.
And it was about like how like I looked at his stuff and I was like, man, your lines are so crispy. Like it's like to me when I looked at it, I was like, are you able to even maintain this? And then Becky wisely was like, well, this fool's like used to drawing on skin without an eraser.
He's trained.
Like he probably got a skill set that you're not super
You got to make it
familiar.
perfect, you know. You're not perfect, but you know the lines have to be in the place where they're supposed to be. You know, in comics you can be a little like willy-nilly with the lines because people are only going to look at it for a few seconds. But if someone's, you know, like I look down at my arm and I see art on it, it's like it's in there, you know, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So there's a precision with tattooing that I think maybe.
You were also talking about like tattooing as related to comics in the context of communicating clearly.
Yeah, because comics, you know, when you look at a panel, you have to know exactly what's going on, like instantly, you know? Like people are only going to look at that panel for like 1 or 2 seconds tops. I mean, maybe they'll go back over it and like look a little closer. And with a tattoo, it's similar because you have to, you know, someone's going to look at it and from a few feet away or like however you want someone to be like, oh yeah, that's like, you know, a sailboat or that's like, you know, a bird.
Right.
Yeah. You don't want that wolf looking like a rat or something.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like it has to be, you have to be able to communicate what it is with like a series of like, you know, crisp lines. So there is a similarity in like visual communication and like using, you know, the shapes and the lines to your advantage, but it's a different, like there's a speed in comics that is, you just have to be faster. You have to let go of the perfection, which I think, you know.
I don't think I have. I mean, I don't think I was going to ask you about that. So you're making a conscious decision to just to let stuff go because you're aware it will only be looked at for a brief second while you're working on a comic?
If I can't get something looking perfect, I try and not worry about it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that I do, sure. But I mean, I'm pretty meticulous, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Becky has said to me in the past that she is not a perfectionist or whatever. But I've also watched her spend like 2 days on a single panel. And then the next day, like it comes out in the wash because the next day she'll like crush 3 pages. So I think it's like figuring out where you're gonna spend your time, where you're gonna aggravate yourself.
Right.
Like if you know that something's critical to the story, like you're gonna put a bunch of time into it. But if it's just like some horseshit in the background or whatever, then fuck it. Like it's an expressive art form, you know. It's if you get the idea, oh, there's something like over that ridge, you know, like oh, there's a car in the distance. That car can be a little blobby and goofy.
I got you. Yeah, you guys are right.
Yeah.
In
I also
some way,
think like I was doing like cover work and illustration for so long, so I started getting like too noodly, you know, with my art. So it's like unlearning the things that I've spent the last few years like kind of training myself to get better at, like to be less sloppy and to be like, you know, a little tighter.
unlearning.
Is that affecting your comics now? Are you feeling like you're too tight?
Oh yeah, for sure. You know, you spend a couple of years just focusing on like your illustration, and it's a different skill set. It's like draftsmanship and like composition, and you need all these things to make comics, but it's different.
Right. That's a good point. How are you all doing with this virus stuff?
I think we're doing okay.
I've started like missing certain things.
Like
Like
what?
the other day I was just like pouring a cup of coffee, doing something routine, and I was like, man, I kind of miss going to the movies.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Or like I'll just have thoughts like that where it's like, man, I miss this thing that I kind of took for granted.
We
And
have
I
like
think,
a friend who has a great food truck that we would do for brunch
Oh.
not every weekend, but like, you know, once every 2 or 3 weeks.
Right.
And I miss going to get brunch.
Yeah.
Food truck.
I miss going out to restaurants the most, I think.
Yeah, we cook at home most of the time, so it's not too big of a difference for us. Like we rarely went out, you know.
yeah,
Right.
there are a few places we like to go.
Yeah.
And not being able to go to them is kind of a downer.
And we used to have games night every Saturday. It moved around a little bit, but with Matthew Woodson, who's an incredible illustrator, and his partner Amanda, she's a writer and editor,
multi-talented person.
Yeah, and we would do game night with them every week, more or less. And now it's like we haven't seen them since like January, and it stinks because that was like a nice routine, you know, like every week. This is what it's like, and then Wednesday is like comic book day, and then Sunday is Dungeons and Dragons day. So like the week had its like, you know, the social things that we would do.
There was
very much in place.
But there was a rhythm to life.
Yeah. And now the rhythm is like very much, it's not monotonous, I shouldn't say, because I enjoy it.
It's different.
It's just different.
It is.
I'm really lucky that like I was feeling down for a second, and then like some good things have like happened that have made me feel like, okay, my creative pursuits haven't been in vain, that there's like still like there's still good things happening. It's not happening at the rate that I was expecting it to happen, but like I don't know, I think I'm feeling healthier and happier than certainly than the last time we all spoke, you know, like
That's good.
life has improved, and I hope that a lot of people are finding that to be the case. I hope that everyone's kind of not getting used to it, but like finding a way to be able to cope with this like troubling time. I've got friends in California who are like, I was a barber for a bunch of years. You wouldn't know it from my crazy hair right now. But I've got friends who are like reopening their businesses pretty soon.
Yeah, I was going to
That's
ask you about
so
that
tough.
because
It's like
Georgia
man,
opened last Friday.
Yeah, Austin's opening on Friday, or have they already opened? I don't know. I don't remember.
How do you guys feel about that?
I'm really concerned about. I
Yeah,
don't think
it
this
makes me
shit's
uncomfortable.
done. I don't think
Yeah.
this shit's done. And I'm like, my friends who like own barbershops and stuff who are like, yeah, we're like in the area that they're at, it's illegal for them to reopen. But they're like, I gotta feed my family. I gotta do this. I gotta do that. I'm just gonna open. If I get fined, then I'll figure it out then. And I always want to say, like, please don't, you know, just please fucking
Right.
stay home. Like, but, you know, like, financial shit is just as, like, if you can't afford to eat, that's as problematic as getting a disease that'll, like, kill you. You know, like,
Yeah, totally.
like,
Totally. I mean, we're kind of straddling that. I mean, my wife works in a spa, so I mean, we're open, but luckily her boss is not opening yet, but will in a week and a half.
And then you have to choose, like, do you put yourself at risk to make money? You know,
Right.
do you risk, like, if she's like, oh, I'm not comfortable to go in yet, you know, is she going to risk the
Freaking
job?
out. Yeah, I
You
mean,
know?
she's freaking out a bit. But I mean, she's collecting unemployment now, and if they open
yeah,
up, she doesn't
she'll
come
lose
back, she
her
loses
unemployment.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, it puts people
That's
in a very
crazy.
difficult spot. I wish, you know, I wish it was easier for people to stay home.
Yeah, me too.
I don't
That's
like that people are having to make these difficult decisions, you know?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. And luckily, like for us, we can still do our thing.
Yeah,
Just not.
that's like the love in my life of drawing is also my career choice, which, you know, presents some problems, but right now it's, you know, enabled me to keep working from home. I haven't had too many like job disruptions. Most of the things that I've had have been like, I've had a couple jobs that one of them is on hold, but the rest of them are still going through.
Okay.
So that's good. But it's like, I'm very thankful that I can do this and keep working.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I know a lot of people who have gotten that call, stop working.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a good call to get.
It is not.
But that's the reality that a lot of people around the world are facing. You know, like,
Yeah, it's not just comics. I mean, this is like every business, you know?
Yeah, if you're a bartender, you're getting that call. You know,
Right.
So
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Pints
we
down.
we can all be united and being like kind of bummed at home. but trying not to be bummed. And I'm seeing like so many people like get creative in their downtime and shit. Like maybe this pumping of the brakes will give people time to recenter and refocus and be able to approach their life with a little bit more agency than what they had before, because they know that they have survived something very challenging like this.
Right, right.
So,
I hope
and
so.
I mean, that's worth a lot of fucking money. Like being
Yeah.
able to be like, oh, I can survive. That's a really beautiful thing.
Yeah, if you felt powerless before in your life, and then you have this chance to reevaluate things, and it might help get, like you said, get some agency.
I agree. I hope that when we do come out of this, things are different.
That's how I'm feeling about like the distribution in comics. Like there's a lot of talk about Diamond stopping distribution, and there's just stores not being able to get new books, and publishers
Right.
stopping everything. So it's like I'm hoping that with all this, I've heard people say like, oh, you shouldn't restructure an entire industry during a time of crisis, but it's like this structure collapsed. It just like this pressure was too much, and the structure that we had in place was it's been unsustainable for as long as I've been in comics.
Right, exactly.
So it's like this is the time to like figure something new out, and like hopefully it means more opportunities for everybody.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking about that a lot, and I mean, the system was on feet of clay.
Yeah,
this hit.
it was just like balsa wood.
Right, exactly. Exactly. So yeah, I mean, look, I've been reading some webtoons, like things I normally just wasn't interested in doing, and now I'm really interested in looking at doing a webtoon or something.
You definitely should.
Yeah.
I think now is the time to like, if you're like wanted to try something new, this is a good opportunity.
Right.
Not to say that it's like you have to do that, or put pressure on anyone who's feeling like.
The truth is any time is a good opportunity.
Yeah.
Like any time. Like we come out of this crisis, it's not like, oh, now's not a good time to chase your dreams. It's like,
that's the best Gorilla Biscuit song. Start today.
Start today. Yeah.
That's so good.
But I think if you listen to the universe is giving you permission right now to do a lot of different things. One of those things is to like smoke weed and lay on your couch, or like mellow out in your preferred way. And another thing that it's saying is like, hey, like you could also do this. You could also.
I have not taken advantage of any downtime. I seriously haven't had a day off of like drawing and like working to build my business since this started. I haven't taken one day off. That's not.
But you're like building your business,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, you've said before that's like not part of your like vocabulary.
Right.
You said you're a natural grinder, and shit, I believe it.
Yeah, but I do need downtime. But
yeah,
it's like I want this when it's over. Like I just want to go to the beach for like a week when this is over. Like that's downtime for me.
Yeah, I give you permission, dude. I think you earned a beach trip. I think everyone earned a beach trip.
Yeah, no doubt.
When this shit's done and it's safe to emerge, like go support the bars, go to the movies, go fuck around. Like we're all gonna be poor, but like go out and do your shit a little bit. Like
yes.
Get the machine going again. Help out the people that have been out of work for all this time, and have fun. Go eat at your favorite place that barely scrape through, but you know, like
Right.
these poor restaurants, like shit, I don't even know what they're doing. But
Have you guys been getting any like carry out at all or anything like that?
Every once in a while, like once a week, we've been getting sandwiches from a place that we like.
Yeah, yeah, we've been doing
But
that.
we don't really do that very much even. It's we cook it, or like, you know, I was saying earlier, we cook at home like 99% of the time anyway.
Right, right. Yeah, I cook a
Um
lot. I cook a lot too.
so it's just been like more cooking at home. We had like a our fridge broke like 3 times in the last month or month
Right,
and a half.
right.
So it's been like an odyssey to try
it
and get
was
this thing fixed.
it's
It's crazy.
catastrophic when you're supposed to be stockpiling food. So we'll buy like, let's get 6 gallons of oat milk, and
Right.
then the fridge goes out, and it's like, fuck, we got like $100 of oat milk. Like, what are we gonna do?
Oh, did you lose a bunch of stuff?
We
The
did
first time we did,
the
but
first time pretty much everything went south. The second time we saw it coming, so we were like, well, the freezer still works, so we'll make a bunch of ice, and then we'll bring the ice down into we had an ice box. You know,
Oh,
we were like,
okay.
we're frontier styling for a moment. But, you know, like, talk about first world problems, right? Like, we're complaining about fucking oat milk potentially going bad. There's people that, like, can't afford food, so we tried to keep it reasonable, and not like feel too bad for ourselves, but it was really stressful. I can't even fucking lie. Like, having your fridge be out sucks.
yeah,
Yeah, that's not.
it's not good. And then you got to
That's
wait
what,
around for like the people to come and fix it, and it's like, well, I'll be home anyway.
yeah.
It's not like I'm going anywhere.
That's brutal. All right, I'm gonna hit stop on record unless there's something you wanted to discuss before I did so.
I don't think so. I'm trying to
But
think of anything that's more exciting than our fridge to end on, but I mean, that might be it.
Yeah, we're always glad to be on here, man. And we're glad to have shared this moment with anybody out there watching. Make sure that you subscribe to Sean's channel,
yes,
and
thank
that
you
you
for
support him.
thank you.
Hit
Yeah.
the
Smash that
bell.
bell.
Smash that. Hit the bell. Subscribe.
Like, subscribe, share. What did I do that right? It's the first time I've ever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
subscribe, like, and comment. That's what I need on YouTube.
Yeah.
That's
And share it on your social media. Come on.
yeah.
Come on.
Spread the love.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna before I go, I do want to say thank you for coming back, because the last podcast we did, I did not record, and we spoke for a while and had a good conversation.
Oh, there were some good stories.
There was.
You know what? It was just friends hanging out. We don't need a device. you know?
Right,
Yeah,
right,
we
right,
don't need
which
a
is good.
podcast.
Which is good. Yes, I agree. But thank you for coming back.
Of
So
Of course.
I'm gonna press stop, but you guys will hang out and talk a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you all for listening to Inkpulp Audio. Please do hit that subscribe button. Please do like and comment. And I'll see you next time.